Hello and welcome to another episode of Political Breakdown, a show where we look at the week's news, get sad, and then move on. My guest this week is Bob Walsh. Hello, Bob.
Hello, Ashley. How's it going, brother?
Surviving. How about you?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Sort of getting through it. Really missing all the things I normally do: football, comedy, music.
Well,
Horrible.
as we're missing so much, let's talk about other things that are missing. The protests.
Yeah,
How are we feeling about them?
Well, I'm really sort of quite glad that I'm doing this podcast because I know I'd be up there right now, probably getting in trouble, probably being up against people that are actual lifelong friends of mine on the other side. I don't sort of tend to live in that left-wing bubble that a lot of comedians do. I happen to know a lot of people from my life that are quite on the other side of this argument, and they're just going up there to cause trouble. I think it's a couple of months of being locked away, jumping in on an argument that's got nothing to do with them. I think they just fancy a bundle, and I think it's going to happen today.
Well, what we've got is the curfew, because a protest for Black Lives Matter has got a curfew going on at 5 o'clock. Now,
Yeah.
the first thing is, should there be a curfew?
I think, yeah, there's going to be trouble. So if that's got to be one of the ways of dealing with it, just depending from which angle. From my hooligan angle, no, I don't think so. But it's going to go off tonight. It absolutely is going to go off tonight. I think they sort of started doing that last week, and the trouble started when they tried to clear everyone around 7 o'clock because there was no trouble before that. So I reckon that's the thinking behind it from the police's point of view. But yeah, I mean, I'm not happy to be living in a time where they're doing curfews in London on a Saturday night either.
Yeah. What I've found interesting with regards to the lead up to these protests is a lot of the government have been saying, "Oh, don't go to the protests, don't go. Violence isn't the answer." But none of this has been directed at the far right, where you've got the likes of Stephen Yaxley Lennon, Nigel Farage, and all of these far right knobheads talking about there's going to be violence, trying to set up a race war. Yet our government is only talking about the people who are trying their very best to get some form of equality into the world.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's that you know why I'd be at the march. I wouldn't be up there with my football lads. I just think it's a time just to, well, for me, just shut up and show up and just be there in support of them at a time when the world is talking about it, and we should embrace that opportunity to talk about it and maybe do something about it. And I think it's an important time, and I'm a bit annoyed that the petty sort of they're not all racist. A lot of them are just sort of British nationalist types, with black friends and things, but they just think they're being ignored right now.
Is there a difference? Is there a big difference between British nationalists and racist?
Well, I don't know. That's a difficult one. I know people that I know people that are genuinely not racist. People that have played football to good levels. They have different coloured people in their lives.
Yeah, but we all know that
they're also proud to be nationalists. I think it is the rocky road towards racism, but there are people who are on the road rather than at the destination.
Yeah, we all know that you can't say, "Well, some of my best friends are black" as an excuse for. No, that's not an excuse for not being racist.
But I'm also really keen not to label everybody racist, because I think that's just right now. Because that's
certainly, absolutely. It is very easy to say, "Oh, well, they're just all racist," and you shouldn't just try to brush a big tar everyone with the same brush. At the same time, it could be argued that a lot of people are racist, and so you can't also hide from that. It's one of the things that annoys me the most with all of this is we seem to ignore the fact that evil does exist. There is evil. There are
Yeah.
evil people. There are evil people in our government at the moment. They're not just incompetent.
Indeed.
They're not just, they are evil, and they would want to
Yeah.
do evil things.
Yeah.
And so we can't just, in all sides, you can't tar everyone with the same brush, but we also cannot shy away from calling people what they are at times. Now let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's
Go
go
on,
to the
carry on.
statues.
Yeah.
A lot of people talking about the statues this week. Lots of talk about statues. We're having statues who are now better protected than a lot of our nurses,
Yeah.
which is a
Yeah.
concern. They got their fucking protection equipment incredibly fast. I'm not
Yeah.
sure why, but very quickly. Should they have taken down the statue in Bristol the way that they did, or should it have gone via the council?
Well, they've been trying to do it for years. When I lived in Bristol, I ran a couple of pubs in Bristol in the 90s. There was talk about it then, and I even went on a demonstration about it then. Well, for me, it was a part of my night out, I'm afraid. It was, on the way home, a little 100-yard detour, and I could go and piss on it. And we used to go and abuse it, people that I was with. I sort of, it's a pretty left-wing place, Bristol, and most of my mates were left-wing there, unlike in London. And we used to just go and piss on it and abuse it. And on tourist days, we would just go and say, "Do you know who that bloke is? Do you know what that bloke done?" And we say,
Now
"Look,
you're
they
gonna
were
have to
talking."
piss in toilets. It's terrible.
And yeah, so you would, it sort of raised conversation. But no, I thought it was brilliant that they smashed it up and threw it in the fucking river. I'm sorry.
How about this argument that people make? And I disagree with this argument. I think this argument's absolutely bollocks, but a lot of people have said it. You take it down and we won't learn from it.
Yeah, I'd rather it was in a museum. If the best possible result with that would have been taken down at a reasonable time and put in a museum as a lesson for the world, yes.
Yeah, well, that's if you've got a museum, call it something like British History Isn't Fucking Wonderful Museum, or something. Yeah. But the idea of people arguing that we won't learn anything from it if we take the statue down worries me, because it suggests that we're all learning from statues, and statues are not things to learn from. You don't walk down the fucking street and get honesty. If the statue had a plaque that said, "This is this knobhead, he was a slave owner and helped to kill over 10,000 slaves just on a trek from Africa to a thing." If you had that, the honest truth on it, people would be going, "Why do we have this statue up?"
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, in the corner of the museum, maybe behind bars in the corner, but somewhere chained to somewhere. That would be better for me. And a nice big plaque saying what a cunt you was.
A museum is a place where you can learn about awful stuff, but you don't have to have it out in the open as a statue in Bristol, or the statues that we have in London of all of these slave owning shitheads. How about Churchill? Should the Churchill statue be taken down?
No, Churchill for me did the greatest thing that the human race have done in their organised state, well, certainly since the Romans, in beating fascism. So I can't forget what else he done, but he did do that, and that is really just a tiny little bit of an important part of our history. So I'm really not keen on that. I think that could be a debate had in time with people, and if that's the way they feel, that's the way they feel. But no, I don't actually believe that with Churchill it's at all relevant, at all useful, and frankly, we should be remembering people who beat up Nazis right now.
Yes, but isn't the argument also with Churchill? Like, for me, I'll tell you where I stand with it. is I couldn't give a fuck. You want to get rid of the statue? Get rid of the statue. I don't care. But is the argument with Churchill that although he quite rightly is revered for his leadership during World War II, and as well he should be. Without him, potentially we would not have got the US involved. Without him, we may not have held out for as long as we did against the Germans. His leadership did bring the country together. It was very needed, and it was very useful at the time. We cannot also take away from the fact that during his leaderships in other parts of history, he killed and had a hand in killing an awful lot of Indians. And that is the other side. So potentially keep, as I say, with Churchill, I don't care. I think statues as a whole, if we're going to have statues, let's have people who we could actually support throughout. But I think that's a problem with our history. There's been campaigns this week with regards to trying to get a meeting with Gavin Williamson, who's our education secretary, to attempt to get him to make Black history a compulsory thing in schools. What do you think? Do you think that would be a useful thing for schools? And as a broader question, our British history, should it be changed in what we're actually taught?
Well, I grew up. I mean, I went to school in the 60s and 70s, and I had the old much talked about big pink map of the world, the places that we owned, but I was taught nothing about real history, about what had happened in Ireland, and I was an Irish, second generation Irish, and certainly nothing about Black history. If history is being taught properly, then surely that should be covered in its effect on the people within a society. Now, surely that should just be the case naturally, and it certainly wasn't in my day. And I hear rumours that it isn't now. That would cover it so well, wouldn't it, if it was actually just taught properly?
Well, yes. I think if the history was taught correctly, then we wouldn't look at the country with such rose-tinted spectacles and be unable to. Because the problem is, if you're taught that everything this country's ever done is nothing but wondrous joy. We went over to India, we gave them cricket and railways, and really that's it. We need to forget all the other stuff. If we have that, then it means that we are unable to actually analyze and look at ourselves for the problems that we've made, which will leave us in a nationalist environment.
Yeah.
So the people who are doing this are a group called Black Curriculum, and so they're currently collecting signatures, and they're calling on Gavin Williamson, as I say, to start teaching Black history, make it compulsory in primary and secondary school, and across a range of different subject areas. I think we could take that even a bit further for bringing in a wider range of histories for the ethnicities that are in this country. A prime example is Muslims were the ones who invented algebra, and a lot of the maths in this world came from the Middle East.
No, I mean, Muslim history isn't backward.
Exactly.
And I guess what? I didn't know that either, and I went to church all my childhood.
This is the thing, and if I mean, religion, of course, had a big say in what you were taught in the 60s. Religion had a big control over what people were taught.
Yeah,
Not
no,
so much
massive,
now,
massive,
but
massive.
yeah,
I
exactly.
was a, I was a Catholic that went to a Church of England school and a Church of England grammar school, and I wasn't really sure, but I just started going to a Church of England church in the end because that just didn't matter that much to me. There was a
I
better
mean, it shouldn't,
there was a
frankly.
better choir.
Yeah. Now, do you think that with these protests, and I'm already seeing it happen, that if we have a second wave of on the coronavirus that we're probably going to have, the protesters are going to be blamed for this?
Well, I reckon there's two different communities totally not doing it. The people on the beaches, which I don't think of mostly the people in the cities. I think they're from the countryside around the beaches, and the cities who behave differently throughout this whole thing. So I think most of London, evidence suggests most of London's had bloody coronavirus anyway. So I don't think from the people in London, I don't think it's going to make that much difference. And the coastal people, they're all, they're going to be spreading it inevitably. I mean, obviously the stats are down, and I think because we've been locked away for 2 months.
Yeah.
And so they've gone down, and it's inevitable they're going to go up. Probably not very quickly because of the time of year it is, but it is very contagious, and the second wave is actually almost inevitable to me. Like either way, so I can't. Nobody can work out whether it was best to stay locked down or not to have locked down at all.
I mean, we should have certainly locked down. Absolutely, we've saved a lot more lives, and we would have saved more if we locked down earlier, which was suggested. No matter what the government says, was suggested, and there should be an inquiry into why it wasn't done, and why we're still allowed to go to fucking Cheltenham Festival or whatever it was.
But as it turns out, they haven't done that. As it turns out, they just have done herd immunity, but with just a little couple of months break.
Yeah.
That is what's happened. That is literally what they've done. So.
Yes. And now we're third in the list for most deaths in the world because Brazil recently took us over. I think just yesterday or today they've taken us over, and Brazil are going to be absolutely fucked because their leader, their leader is a fucking numpty.
No, yeah. I've done nothing but read the news and catch up with world affairs in this last 3 months, and so I know what a fucking nutter he is.
Mate, he is a different fucking level. Here's a question where we're talking about the statues, we're talking about Black Lives Matter and everything like this. Should the past, and I've written a thing, should we judge the past by today's standards? Because this goes on to Churchill and things like this.
Yeah, well, I mean, the good example of that with them taking down comedy videos right now. I suppose that this is a precursor to that conversation, is it? I don't like rewriting history. No, I don't like rewriting history. I think if you were doing a show about like Little Britain and stuff in the future, you would say this was done in that year, and certain changes haven't been made in people's attitudes or whatever. I don't know. This needs an explanation of when it came out. It just really needs it doesn't stop it being funny for me. I don't like it. I'm not comfortable with banning books, burning books, as far as I'm concerned, which is what they seem to be doing to me now. I doing to artwork now and great comedy. And no, there's no winner here. This is bad. This is fucking awful. I'm worried big time about this. This is part of a big pattern of taking away rights that I'm really not happy about.
Do you think that do you think that a publisher like the BBC or BritBox or something like this, do you reckon them not showing a particular program is taking away freedoms?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, you can still get them on DVD.
It should be. It just should be accessible on the platforms that made it famous. You know, they've all got like libraries that you can go into, and they're being removed from that library.
How about the Top of the Pops with Jimmy Savile's on?
Yeah, no, yeah, I think that might seem a bit distasteful, but it just happened, and it's actually part of my childhood that I had a load of.
No, yeah, but no, I'm saying that should for like Top of the Pops, all of the Top of the Pops is with Jimmy Savile on, or all the episodes of Jim Will Fix It. Should we allow them on TV?
I don't know where the line is. I don't think there's. I mean, literally,
everyone has their own line.
Yeah, I don't. I wouldn't be getting nightmares if Jimmy Savile came on, but on an old episode of that. But I know a lot of people would. So yeah, it's a very difficult one. I'd prefer to have no censorship at all.
Oh well, the thing about censorship and the difference between, say, a stand-up and TV is that although you can argue that you have a remote, you can change the channel, there's the other side that with TV, you're going into someone's home. Whereas stand-up, they're coming to you. Like this, you're coming to see me here. Whereas if someone's just got a TV on a particular channel and they're going off, maybe their children are watching it or something, anything can come on because it's just on that channel and you're going into their home. I agree with your point that we can't just take down everything that people may dislike. But I would also argue that, especially with some of this stuff, if you just put a warning at the front, that may be enough to just say this is going to be there are racist elements in this, because they're going to say stuff like, oh well, this is because they're going to put a thing at the front and it's going to be, some people may find this offensive, and then it's going to have the N-word chucked about all over. That's not offensive, that's racist. And that's the thing. In the 70s, with these shows and everything,
yeah,
they weren't tackling the problems with race. They weren't doing that, and it didn't change anything. I saw John Cleese make a point, go, "Oh well, we were doing this to fight it." They go, "Oh yeah, you solved racism in the 70s. Well done to you." By you getting an old man, everyone laughing at an old man saying the N-word and another awful word I'm not going to say. You were using it because people were laughing at it. That's why.
Yeah.
It's not. It wasn't some great satirical piece. It wasn't fighting racism at that point. This is what gets me with it.
When it did do that, what I liked about the Love Thy Neighbour was, you know, we had a really cool West Indian family next door but one, and they were a really cool West Indian family, and that was my knowledge of West Indian families at that time. And the white bloke was the idiot, and he reminded us of the grumpy old bloke down the road who wouldn't give us our ball back. The white bloke, he was the cunt, you know, who was particularly rude to the black family. And you know, so for me, it cemented that was the stupid behaviour. Was the white, you know, the white bloke was the idiot in all of this, and I could see that. So why aren't other people seeing that?
Oh, I mean, it's an interesting point, but it could also have a number of people looking at that character going, "He's right. That man, I understand him." It's the same reason that some people can watch Mrs. Brown's Boys and go, "This is some of the most offensive, awful drivel."
I just don't have an opinion at all about it, to be honest.
Well, the other side going, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah. I find it funny that comedians are so offended by it, actually. But yeah, no, I get your point. I used to get a lot of thick Irish paddy stuff as a kid as well, and that's funny how that doesn't really happen anymore. Because we're white, we're completely accepted in those situations.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've got a text message that I need to fucking take. Sending
Okay.
a photo of. No, I still talk. I'm still listening.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. What you were talking about just now, and on my own style of comedy. I mean, couldn't be. It's not designed for telly anyway. It is completely a stand-up act, and you need to see that I'm being rude, as sarcastically, and God, that couldn't get anywhere near it now. The young ones couldn't get anywhere telly now. Just so many programs that I really loved, and they just wouldn't get commissioned now. There's not a chance.
But is that because times have progressed?
Or yeah, it's changed. Yes. Maybe.
And that's the thing. So something like the young ones,
It's still the funniest thing I've ever seen.
but it could be done just in a different way. You wouldn't be able to do the exact thing because hell, even with a lot of the well, we've unfortunately not as many as one would like in 30 years, but some of even what's happening wouldn't work for today just because it was a different time in the 80s. So the house share of them having a living room, you wouldn't have that now. Nowhere's got a fucking living room in London.
No.
It's ridiculous.
No. It's got three people sleeping in it.
Hey, oh Christ, don't even get me started. I'll kill every fucking estate agent, the little bastards. Let's continue with the protests and everything else. Over in Minneapolis, the city council has pledged to disband the city's police department and replace it with a new system of public safety. This is 9 council members announced support, which represents a supermajority on the 12-person council. So this means that the mayor, who was opposed to this, cannot override it. So the mayor has oversight over the police, but the council controls the budget and policy. Do you think disbanding the police is a good thing?
I think if it needs disbanding, disband it. I mean, I don't mean sort of say, right, well, there won't be a police force Monday morning. We're going to have a new boss who's going to have these set of priorities rather than the previous set of priorities. And I think it's about rubbing out the people at the top. I don't know if they need to structurally rub it all out. But they certainly do need to make some changes. Historically, it doesn't look good for them right now, the way it's being run. And I think then there does need to be some changes. It's nasty. It's from another time, this behaviour, just killing people like that.
Well, is one of the major problems with regards to our police the fact that we seemingly have used them as a go-to for everything?
Our police are just amazing, mate. They're just amazing. If you think about my life, I've been a small-time criminal. I've been a revolutionary socialist. I've collected money for revolutionary organisations, but I'm not that dangerous, and they've never done me. And I haven't ended up in a gulag, and I haven't ended up locked away. And they don't carry guns. And I've taken a couple of beatings off them, but guess what? I fucking deserved it. I really think that they're just the greatest thing ever. But it was found out that they are institutionally racist, and
yes.
And so they needed to make those changes. But there's no way the structure would have needed breaking down at all.
Well, I think one of the problems, as I say, is that with police, we have used the police to tackle everything, and a lot of stuff that they shouldn't, do not have the experience, do not have the training to deal with. Problems in social care, as an example. The police are too widely think. A police should be to police. That's what they should be there for. They should be there to make sure that no one's breaking the law or anything like that. All the other bits should have individual organisations dealing with them.
Yeah, specialist organisations.
Yes, and that is where the defunding of the police, I think, is a good idea. To use that money to use actual groups of specialists to deal with the issues that we face in society. You can't police your way out of problems. You can't arrest your way out of racism. You can't arrest your way out of poverty.
No, I agree. Yeah, I think there needs to be some restructure massively, massively. All over the world. I mean, surely you can learn lessons from other places. I mean, places where they've got it right. Don't know the examples. I wouldn't want to fuck with Spanish police the way I fuck with British police, for start.
Oh, let's go on. There's been an interesting review, because there's a major review has been started into whether existing legislation adequately deals with hateful extremism. Hateful extremism is different to like violent extremism or domestic terrorism or something like that. Now, that's been launched. It's led by the former Assistant Commissioner for Special Operations, Sir Mark Rowley. And he has warned that extremists are exploiting gaps in laws to push agendas like pushing anti-Semitic coronavirus conspiracies. So, well, hateful extremists, and hateful extremism is a new word that they're using, and what it is, it's encouraging community tensions, rising hate crimes, and even pushing people toward becoming terrorists. So someone like Stephen Yaxley Lennon would be a hateful extremist. He's using tensions and deceitful manipulations of language and facts to get communities to hate specific people.
Well, I'm someone who likes my enemy where I can see him and where I can hear him. Frankly, I just prefer that way. You know, free speech has to include those people as well. If it's going to mean anything.
The problem with free speech, and everyone keeps on talking about free speech, is they very rarely say it about someone like Amjad Chowdhury. Amjad Chowdhury was put in prison for his speech because he was trying to get people to become terrorists. And I have heard no free speech thinker, no free speech extremist say that that was wrong, because he is a fucking Muslim, and Tommy Robinson, Stephen Yaxley Lennon, this shit stain, is a white man. We cannot, if you're going to stop people from recruiting ISIS members, then you have to stop Stephen Yaxley Lennon from attempting to start a race war.
Yes, you do. Yeah, no, I mean, Yaxley Lennon seems to sort of tread the line, and also he's overstepped the line in my book on many occasions, and nothing's been done about it. Yeah, I think he's a nasty little piece of work, and you need to keep an eye on him. But yeah, I mean, he should still, you know, and Chowdhury, it should be shown to people as this is what they're doing, rather than just pretend it never happened. And the same with Yaxley Lennon. It should be shown to people what the tricks they're pulling in is and why they shouldn't fall for it. This stuff isn't going to go away, and it's better off that we do that than it spreads through the pubs of the country, for instance, which would be the other way if it's just all shut up. It will just slowly work its way around the pubs and working men's clubs of the country. That sort of attitude. So let's have it out there in the open. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's show it for what it is. It's racism.
Conversation has rarely done anything, ever. If conversation worked, then Farage wouldn't have had his own radio show. what you tend to do with conversation, because we're at a point where with conversation there's no ability. You've either got gotcha questions, or you're getting someone who's just going around in circles, not admitting what they've said.
Oh.
And so, like Tommy Robinson, you go, "Well, Tommy Robinson, you've been racist." Oh, well, show me where I've been racist. Show me a time I've been racist. You go, "Well, here you go. You said this. This is racist." Oh, no, that's not racist. No, that's not racist. You go, you can't win. You cannot win with that. You cannot defeat it, because you've got people who are so clung on to their ideas that they're being held down. Especially in this country, we've got this idea that we're being held down, and it's not by the government who's screwing us. No, it's by someone who looks slightly different to me. And that's it. Our villains are always picked wrong. 10 years of Tory government, and we haven't had an uprising of going, are you fucking sure? Because all the problems are coming from them. They're the ones doing it. They're the ones who are cutting everything. They're the ones who are making sure you don't have a job. They're the ones who are making sure that you are unable to afford anything because they've turned everything to universal credit. And they're screwing everyone over. This week, they've Justice Minister put up after 12 weeks of the coronavirus pandemic, they put up the asylum sum that asylum seekers get in this country. They put it up by 26p a day. Asylum support, 26p a day. They put it up after 12 weeks of a fucking global pandemic. Them having hardly any fucking money, they have the audacity to come out and say, we're helping you, here's 26p a fucking day.
Yeah, those things you can't rely on the government. I've seen some amazing work because I'm sort of slightly involved in a couple of homeless projects, and I have seen some amazing work going on with people, and you know that as well. Yeah, I can't say anything wrong about the Tories. I've watched it. When I was a street homeless bloke, it was during Tony Blair's time, and I promise you, I had 20 times the options that are available to homeless people now. They've just destroyed. There was a little industry which was mostly run by volunteers, but now there isn't even the organisation to organise the volunteers. And they've just murdered people. They've just murdered so many homeless people. Sorry to drag it onto my subject rather than that one, but austerity has just been evil, and the destruction of a welfare state that I was actually really proud to be part of and recipient of. It was just it's such a shame. It really is, and that is responsible for so much of the police's work as well. Going back to that subject we talked to previously to that.
Yes.
And it's just horrible.
Not only the police
civilization. Sorry.
Yeah, but it's not only the police stuff. You're also looking at the majority of societal issues: inequality, feeling like you can't, feeling like no one's there for you. All of this stuff that comes from austerity. And when you've got this, and you've got people feeling that they're down on their luck, no one's looking after them, they're not being listened to, and everything like that, that is when the likes of Stephen Yaxley Lennon can come in and push fascism. Because that's all.
Yeah.
That's what fascism is. Fascism is the whole. It's like the populism of it's us versus them. It's us versus them. Ignore all the experts. Let's get rid of the arts. All you require is listening to me, and I will protect you, and together we will grow. They shrink.
Yeah, no, it's a system that's designed to jump into that gap, isn't it?
Yes.
But like after the First World War, was just perfect breeding ground for fascism. And yes,
let's go into another story that shows that the government are a pile of human shit. Because it turns out that a few months ago, Serco, who are one of the private companies that we've given contracts to without any form of competition, which is illegal, but we've done it as statutory instruments, so the government can do whatever the fuck they want. For the contact tracing program, they were fined more than £1 million for failures over another government contract. So this continues the government's apparent insistence in giving NHS contracts to the most incompetent companies out there, and it's a carry on of privatizing the NHS, schools, prisons, and everything with companies that seem to, like, they start off as like a building firm, and then they start get given contracts. It turns out that not only are they a building firm, but they also make school lunches and textbooks. They go, what the fuck's going on here? How did this work? Is Bob the Builder also a professor? Did I miss this?
Yeah. No, they do ferries apparently as well.
Yes, ferries, everything. I mean, yeah, they're no good at them, but they give it a go. A lovely addition to this, because Serco have already had to apologise for breaching data protection laws just a couple of weeks ago when they accidentally released emails of all their new recruits. They're fucking idiots. It also turns out that the junior health minister, Edward Arga, is a former Serco lobbyist. Who'd have funked it, eh? Who'd have funked it?
That was
that
was my inevitable next statement. So, who's on the board of Serco?
The chief exec is, I think it's Robert Soames, who is the grandson of Churchill.
Know the family, yes.
But it's not Nicholas Soames, the MP.
But right.
Still quite in depth. No, I don't think Soames is an MP anymore. I'm not sure, but it's not that one. It's another one who no doubt has contacts in all of the fucking right places. You would do. So they were fined as a result of failure in a contract with the Home Office to provide accommodation to asylum seekers. There's no breakdown of what the failures were, even with freedom of information. So this is just a little thing. So along with test and trace contracts, Serco have also got an 800 million 10-year prison escort and custody contract on October the 19th. February of this year, they got a 200 million contract to manage 2 immigration removal centres close to Gatwick Airport. Now, privatisation, which is what all this is. How can we stop it? I'm not going to ask you if it's good or not. It's obviously not. Listen to what I've just said. We're allowing companies who have no expertise seemingly into every nook and fucking cranny they can get their grubby little hands on.
Yeah.
So how can it be stopped?
Well, I think the quick answer is we can't. They're just nicking away little contracts off the corners of all these different departments. They take all these little situations where the law can be a little bit blurred and take a little bit more off it. I was talking to a friend who works in management and there through privatisation. He's actually working there. He just said, "No, we're nicking it all off you very slowly. Don't you worry about it."
Because we're going to get to a point where they're going to be so intertwined that we can never get rid of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
I think we're already at that. I think we're already at that level now. I really do believe so. And they don't, and also, they don't store anything because they've just, literally everything works last minute, as we found out with the PPE during coronavirus, and the whole thing's just run like a sort of Japanese car making factory nowadays, and
all just in times.
Yeah, all just in time, just as few people as possible. and very sterile and not very welcoming.
As we continue my tirade of shit against the government, turns out that the wife of a former Russian finance minister has become the biggest female political donor in the UK. She donated £325,000 to the Tories in the first quarter of 2020. She has, of course, spent a lot of time with Boris Johnson, playing tennis and all of this. She has given 1.6 million in 5 years. This is what's interesting about this is that Boris Johnson is still sitting on the Russia report that he received in October, all signed off on this from the security community, and has refused to release it. I'm not one for conspiracies. I don't like conspiracies. But I would say if it's taken them 9 months to not release a report that frankly they should have done, whilst at the same time it turns out they've got 1.6 million from a from the wife of a former finance minister in Russia who happens to be an ally with Putin. It doesn't look good. No, doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't look good. The Trump Russia one didn't go too badly.
No, but it also fell apart because there were things that Trump did that's wrong, and they still protected him. There's actually on Trump. There's a very interesting story this week that Trump has sanctioned a number of officials of the ICC, the International Criminal Court, because the ICC are currently investigating potential US war crimes whilst they were in Afghanistan. And he doesn't like this. The US don't recognize the ICC, but he is trying to stop them from entering the country doing any form of investigation because of the Afghanistan stuff. They've also what they're being accused of, the US, is torturing at a secret detention site, which sounds very American, doesn't it? Sounds like the type of thing they'd do.
I've read that in plots in books and stuff, so I assume that makes it possible.
They've also they also believe that the Afghan government and the Taliban had also potentially committed war crimes, such as the mass killing of civilians. So it's not just the US that they're going after; it's also the Afghan government and the Taliban. Do you think that? Go on.
Yeah, no, that's weird, isn't it? Just thinking about that as a group of enemies, quite diverse.
Yeah, I mean, none of them care about human rights, though. That's why they no doubt all get along. Is it about time that we checked to see potential war crimes in Afghanistan? And should this move to Iraq, Libya as well? Or is this one of the things that you go, well, why aren't they doing it to Syria? Then is that one of those things?
I want it all out there. I want Blair locked up. I want it all out there so that we can learn that this is how governments actually deal with us. They told us this at the time, they did this at the time, and this was actually the truth at the time, because the truth is out there now. It wasn't out there when they did the crime. And they just told lies, did something all the way through the Middle East, and I would really love to see people fucking hang for that from both sides, personally. just the thought of those people sitting there with all the money and the backhanders and everything they've made from killing millions and children and women in that region, and they're sitting there counting the money there now. It actually makes me sick to my stomach. I want them all up against the wall. Sorry, that's me.
No, you certainly make some valid points. We're coming towards the end of this, so we're going to do a couple more stories. The first one is Twitter are testing a new feature on Android phones to try to stop the sharing of articles that they haven't read. So it's a notification. It's a prompt that is triggered based on if you've clicked the link, not how much time you've spent on the page. So it's not perfect. You can just click on the link, go back. Oh yeah, I can do it. But it will come out. I've seen this prompt, but it comes up and it goes retweet, read the article, or retweet without reading the article. Do you think that it's certainly an interesting step that Twitter are trying to take to make people actually read the shit that they're retweeting? Do you think that's a useful thing?
God, people are dumb, aren't they? No, oh God. I hadn't given that any thought, and I suppose so. I don't know. Yes, I suppose so. Thinking about it, I suppose that might make a bit of difference, but no, I'm just really. I'm not even sure I want to have an opinion on this.
Personally, I think it's important to read something before you retweet it.
I made that mistake when I first went on to Facebook sort of 10 years ago. I chucked a few things forward that I know I probably shouldn't have done, and just not really, because I just didn't read it. It's just the right friends were sharing it as well.
Yeah.
And I certainly made that mistake.
Yeah. Final one on regards to big tech companies. Microsoft, Amazon, and IBM have all said that they will not sell facial recognition tech to the police. This is in the US. Microsoft has been the latest to come out and say they will not sell until federal law is in place to regulate the use of it. Amazon have banned police from using it for their facial recognition software for a year to give Congress time to implement appropriate rules. And IBM have said that they are going to get out of the facial recognition altogether over concerns of how the tech can be used for mass surveillance and racial profiling.
What a load of old shit. They'll sell that the minute something happens. There's just all that they can put that forward now, and then something will happen in the world, and they'll say, well, we had to do that because of that, and then it's gone.
Yeah, you don't trust it at all?
No, those companies just rule the world. We've already given it away to them now. They know everything we do and everything we think, everything we are. That's already gone.
Yeah.
It's already gone. And whatever they say they're going to do to safeguard us, they would unsafeguard it real soon.
Right. You got anything to plug?
Yeah. No, I've got this burgeoning comedy career, and no, there's fuck all, is there? No, I have actually booked a couple of Christmas gigs, but they're private. So I can plug that. I will be every night of August. I'll be in a corner somewhere crying because I'm not in Edinburgh. And I might vary the venue. Entertaining. And I'm going to do a couple of late night 1 o'clock in the morning ones as well. So yeah, me in the corner crying.
Oh, fantastic! We'll make sure we get links for that. I want to thank you for coming on.
Nice to see you. Shame we didn't get a pint after.
Oh, hopefully next time you're on, it will be back in the castle and we can have a pint.
That would be nice. That would be awesome.
Right, so I'll speak to you very quickly after this, and Pete, close it.